Good evening and welcome to Live United. Please stay with us tonight because you have an exciting opportunity to hear from John Finneran from Keene State College. But before we bring John on here, I just want to say that Live United is all about the opportunity to share all the great work that's going on here in the Monadnock region that makes a difference in the lives of our citizens. So today I do have John with me. I welcome you, John, to the show, and thank you for being with us. John is an assistant professor over at Keene State College in the Community Health Science program. And we're thrilled to have you, John, because there's some great work going on in that program over at Keene State. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about, people probably hear community health sciences. What does that mean?
Well, the Health Science Department at Keene State College has several options that offers a Bachelor of Science degree to students enrolled in it. We have one that is focused on nutrition, a nutrition option, and that prepares some students for entering the field as registered dietitians and working in the health food industry. We also have a health and promotion and wellness program, and that focuses on the health and well-being of individuals and communities. And then we have an addiction option, which prepares students within the health sciences to enter the field entry level as providers of addiction services.
So we know, even here in the Monadnock region, that all three of those issues that you talked about, that these students are being educated in, are critical to the well-being of our citizens. And that you're preparing them to go out in the world and address these issues. And we've seen significant work going on, for example, around the nutrition piece. So how might your students be involved in nutrition here in the Monadnock region?
Well, some of our students are involved in the WIC program and learning about, the needs of mothers and infants. And some of our students have worked at soup kitchens. One of our students recently did an alternative spring break in Boston and was working out of a homeless shelter for individuals, and was also working at a food bank, and got very close to working with folks who struggled to just make it through a day with adequate shelter and food. So one of the hallmarks of the program, I believe, is that we try to involve our students, not only ground them in a strong liberal education, strong theoretical focus, but we try to take that to the next level in application, in service and learning activities that take place out in the community. So our students have both classroom education, but they also have opportunities to learn in the real world.
And I know that through our partners, because we work with the Community Kitchen, for example, and we work with WIC as well, that your students are actually perhaps designing some of the menus for the meal program over at the Community Kitchen, or they're helping prepare recipes that people can take with the boxes of food that they pick up. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the other types of activities? Because they're not just there serving food. They're really taking a very active role in designing some of these programs, and I believe even researching different initiatives out in the community. So could you talk a little bit about that?
A little bit, yes. Our students in the nutrition option are given a very strong grounding, a scientific grounding in principles of nutrition and what best serves health in the human body through food, and have opportunities to design menus and opportunities to look at how affordable nutrition can be affected in different population groups. So it's always with a mind towards serving different populations, whether they be in hospital, whether they be in nursing homes, whether they be in shelters. Whether they be individuals someday that our students might work with as nutrition counselors to advise them about healthy eating.
So I know nutrition is one aspect of the health science department. You mentioned addictions as well. And we know from the research that's been done, and Keene State students have taken a significant role in that research here in the Monadnock region and the analysis of that information. How are they involved with that out in the community?
Well, we have a strong addiction option within the Health Science Department, and the coursework again includes a strong grounding in the current theories of addiction and also in counseling, diagnosis, and case management. We also have opportunities for students to do a substance abuse internship where students may be placed in area treatment agencies and spend a semester working with individuals with both addictive and mental health disorders. And this is a great preparation. Again, it's taking classroom experiences and bringing them to the next level by applying them in real-world situations. Many of the students observe that their learning accelerates greatly when they take what they've learned in the classroom and have a chance to apply it in internship and other learning activity settings, out in the community. And I must say that we're very grateful to the Keene community because they are very, very generous in opening up their programs and various agencies to allow our students to come in and learn. So it's as if the Keene community makes a great investment in our students and gives our students an opportunity to learn and also to provide some of the things that they've been learning. So it's this great partnership, I believe.
It's a super partnership, and it's a win-win because the community certainly benefits from students being involved out there. I had the good fortune to work with students on a prescription drug initiative. They took a very active role in the prescription monitoring and actual implementation of some of the drop boxes across the Monadnock region. So really took some real leadership there, and the hope being that some of these young people also remain here and continue to contribute here in the Monadnock region. So, benefit to them through the college, certainly, but at the same time, we benefit as a community from the great work that they do. And young people are so innovative. So let's talk a little bit about some of that innovation, because I know you and I were involved in a project together around some appreciative inquiry work, it's called, and really thinking about how to be more innovative.
Yes, our health promotion and wellness option, and I would like to recognize the work of Marge Dropa and Janelle Boyer and yourself and Jane LaPointe, wrote to have a grant to use appreciative inquiry, which is this kind of qualitative methodology that brings folks together and looks at creative solutions to problems rather than just focusing on problems themselves. And through their efforts, they were able to recruit a number of individuals from the community and from across the college campus. We had folks from campus safety, we had individuals from student affairs, we had a number of professors from academic affairs. We had a fairly wide range of students, and we met over a period of about 4 evenings. And there was this wonderful process that unfolded to address the issue of prescription drug abuse, which we know both locally and nationally is one of the, it's a problem of epidemic proportions. And bringing students and faculty and staff and community representatives together to look at this issue and to develop some strategies for addressing it was just a wonderful learning opportunity, which has since continued on. There was an application for an alcohol and drug grant here in southern New Hampshire, and we're looking forward to repeating this in the fall. And we have an even wider base of community representation and faculty, administration, and students from the college, so we're looking forward to doing this again.
So that actually planted the seed for a grant coming in and now funding to follow up and do some implementation related to that, ongoing appreciative inquiry. I know there's a whole joint project going on between Franklin Pierce and Keene State College that also was stemmed out of this a little bit. It certainly captured the attention of some folks here in New Hampshire the good work that was going on over at the college. And the appreciative inquiry was kind of a starting place for that, along with the prescription drug work that Marge's and the community health classes had been involved with.
Mm-hmm. One of the focuses that Marge took with this work with prescription drug abuse was to make a senior capstone class focused on research that would further address the issue. And I believe the target group that she looked at was at Keene High School, and conducted a number of field studies, gathered research, analyzed the data. The students were directly involved in the field studies and in data analysis, and there was a final report that was made, I believe, to the school committee and at the school at the end of the term, reporting their findings.
And I know that that resulted in a substance abuse counselor being brought back into the school and some priority being placed on really addressing that issue at Keene High School. Also know from the appreciative inquiry work that it's resulted in some work going on right on campus and really integrating some of the kind of creative, I think, social norming solutions that the students had come up with.
Yes, students kind of embraced this work and were very conscientious about bringing it back to their respective places on campus, whether it was with athletics, whether it was in residential life. A number of the students, as a faculty member, we have an opportunity sometimes to learn as much from our students, hopefully, as they learn from us. And in some of the addictions classes that I was teaching, the interest and the concern about prescription drug abuse was much, much greater. A lot of students were able to report how this has touched their lives directly and indirectly, and were interested about learning more about the topic.
You know, I think that's one of the fascinating things that can happen as we provide these kinds of opportunities where young people can come out and really get some hands-on experience. They not only gain that hands-on skill and develop that knowledge, but it can be life-changing for them in terms of decisions they may make, how they collaborate and work with other people. So, you know, there's sort of these side benefits to it, I think, that we don't always account for. We think of it as an academic experience, but it goes way beyond that.
I would agree. I believe that deep down we have this hunger for community, and that community can respond deeply to our needs. And it's been wonderful to see how some of the students awakened in some of the courses, and some really developed a passion for a strong interest in, for example, pursuing perhaps careers in research and substance abuse, strengthening their interest in becoming clinicians, counselors in the field. And to see that awakening take place through these partnerships between the college and the community is just an extraordinarily wonderful thing. I think it benefits all of us.
Can you think of a story that you could share about a student without disclosing any confidentiality around the student, but a student perhaps that had this kind of experience and what they've gone on to?
Yes, one of my advisees, we take advising very, very seriously in our health science department, and we try to develop these strong teacher-student kind of mentoring relationships. And one of my advisees who participated in the senior capstone course really became excited about research. So much so that in the process of doing this this course, this field studies, that he became excited by the possibility of not only having a substance abuse and addiction background, but was much more interested now in biology and chemistry, and is now pursuing coursework in chemistry and research, something that's really resonated with him. So as a result of this partnership, this particular student really found his it, what he really wants to pursue for the foreseeable future and in his college career. And it wouldn't surprise me if one day he's working as a researcher at NIDA or SAMHSA or one of the national organizations that's interested in researching substance abuse and addictive disorders.
And maybe you can share for our audience what NIDA and SAMHSA
Yes, sorry. I remind my students in their writing to never use acronyms without saying their full names first, so I apologize. NIDA is the National Institute of Drug Abuse, and it is responsible for investigating the impact of drug and alcohol problems in the United States. And it's one of the world's leading research institutions. And SAMHSA is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration, and it too is doing great research into the areas of addictive disorders and mental health problems, co-occurring mental illness and substance abuse, which is a great problem in this country. So these are great, these are wonderful organizations, and perhaps some of our students will aspire towards, finding careers there one day, all because of the work that they did here at Keene State College and in the greater Keene community.
So let's talk a little bit about Keene State College, because it's been an institution that's been here for a long time here in the Monadnock region, right in the heart of downtown. Mm-hmm. A long tradition of working with the community. And what do you see going into the future in terms of that? Because I think, I've watched over even the last probably 4 to 5 years that really become a priority for the students at Keene State. Mm-hmm. And I know they always did the teaching in the schools, but it seems like you're taking a lot of the other departments now and really trying to take them outside the walls of the school.
Mm-hmm. In the health science department, we have a very strong emphasis of wanting our students to be involved in the larger community. And Keene State College itself is embedded within a larger community. And as such, there is an obligation there to serve the community, but also to tap the wonderfully rich resources that are in the community. So I would hope that our partnership with Keene and the Southern Monadnock region continues, and that we find other opportunities to have our students enter to learn but leave to serve, but also have those opportunities within the community to enrich their learning and also to contribute what they're learning. We pride ourselves on being as up-to-date and as evidence-based in our respective fields as possible, and we want to take that new learning and bring it into community settings, and we are grateful for the community settings that are willing to host our students. It's a vital partnership, and I would hope to see nothing but it continue to expand and get larger and find other opportunities for students to serve within the community.
And I know there's quite a large service learning program over at the college, and Jessica and other folks there are very active in engaging young people, even in some early childhood initiatives. Mm-hmm. I know the college has taken a real lead role in reading and literacy. Mm-hmm. For young people, and that college students are actually out working with some of the child care centers on that initiative. Mm-hmm. So, great partner, great institution. It's been fun for me to watch students coming out of there, and we just had an intern from January through June with us, and she has changed her whole career direction, given her real life experience now. So I think, that the experience they gain in the classroom gives them that skill, but then when they get a chance to actually apply it, they get some real direction, and it's fabulous that they have support at the school. Can you talk a little bit about the other kind of support that these students have from the college as they try to take on these? You mentioned the advising piece and faculty taking a very active role in that. How else do they support students?
I think we build it into a lot of the classes, especially the upper level classes, where a number of assignments will include some kind of community involvement and service learning. And that is made a central part of some courses. For example, one of the classes that I teach is a class in behavior change. And one of the things that we foreground in that class is assisting students in conducting focus groups where they can go into the community and enter within a particular culture of individuals, a group of individuals dealing with a health issue, and really learn from them about what their needs are. And then what we ask the students to do is to conduct scholarly research around that topic and to take the findings that they've derived from their focus groups and combine them so that they may return and provide a community wellness intervention for that particular group, to prepare a health literate handout that is tied to the best learning styles of that particular group, and then to also evaluate their work within that group and get feedback from their work and presentation, so that if they were to do this again, that they could build in those changes. So part of this service learning is built into a number of the classes that we conduct.
Can you give an example of a focus group that students might do, and then how they turn that into an intervention?
Well, for example, some of my students in the last course of the behavior change that I taught were interested in some of the nutritional issues that confront persons who are in early recovery from addictive disorders. We know that oftentimes when people come into treatment, the body, the mind, the spirit have been ravaged by the illness, and sometimes people come into treatment and they are malnourished because most of their attention has been devoted towards chasing the drug. So in early recovery, if folks are dealing with nutritional issues, it may create imbalances in the body that put that individual more at risk for relapse. It may, they may not have been eating very well and taking adequate nourishment. They may experience more cravings to use, and a drink or a drug will always take away hunger in the short run. So students were interested in researching the issues of nutrition and the person in early recovery, and they went to an area substance abuse provider and agency, and they conducted a focus group with a number of the individuals there to find out what their eating requirements, their nutritional requirements were, what they had been eating. And then they came back and they put together, I think the title of their presentation was Healthy Eating on a Budget, so that even somebody who isn't quite returned to work yet, might be getting some public assistance, would be able to put together an affordable, nutritious meal plan, healthy snacks that would support the body's recovery with respect to the person seeking recovery. They developed handouts with simple, easy-to-follow directions for recipes, and they left a poster that identified various nutritional foods that were especially useful for folks in early recovery, and left that with the agency.
I know they come up with some very creative things. I worked with one of the classes in my former job, and they did a whole project with the elderly on their disposal of their prescription med bottles, and how to dispose of those properly, and transportation related to their prescriptions, so that they could manage safe and control of that, so that they were actually able to pick up their medication instead of having to send someone else after their medications. So they worked out the whole transportation plan with them, and they also worked with them on how to recycle their containers even, and use them for first aid kits. So they came up with some very creative concepts for, you know, how do you deal with the prescription drugs from the very beginning to the end.
Yes.
So always nice to see those kinds of projects going on. What do you see moving into the future for the health sciences, the kinds of issues you might be involved in out in the community?
Well, I see the areas, we as a department are always thinking with an eye towards looking over the horizon, and what are the needs going to be, the healthcare needs of society over the next 5, 10, or 20 years. And I believe we are actively engaged now in looking at how we can make our program more relevant to our students in ways that help prepare them for a field that is continuing to see increased growth. And as baby boomers get older, their desire to want to maintain independent living is going to create jobs that we perhaps can't yet imagine with regards to assisting people to stay independent longer. And what will that look like? A kind of menu of services that an individual, an elder, may contract with to support their maintaining independent living for as long as possible. What are some of the new trends that we are seeing that are somewhat alarming with respect to patterns of addictive disorders and compulsive behaviors in the future? Was recently at a conference that was continuing to identify the dangers of prescription substance abuse, especially with opiates, and also of stimulant medication. And the number of individuals who are first-time users of various substances. We know that many first-time users will try marijuana, but a significantly increasing proportion of individuals who try psychoactive substances for the first time are trying opiate medications, which they're getting, by the way, from mostly friends and family. We know that stimulant medication and stimulant medication misuse is increasing in individuals. We know that cannabis, marijuana, is a huge public opinion, public policy issue now that is unfortunately a little bit ahead of the science. And we may see things being introduced to society in a social mainstream that may result in problems 20 years from now. Also, we're noticing things with anabolic steroid abuse, which is not so much a problem with 16-year-olds, but really is a problem with young adults, and the health issues that are going to obtain from that 20 years down the road may be of also epidemic proportions.
You know, it's a challenging field as we're moving in the future. You've mentioned a few of the different types of substances being really introduced and used in multiple ways now, and we have that combined with co-occurring disorders oftentimes as well, where we have the mental health issues. We have people returning from being in the military, for example, and we've seen a huge increase in the number of people who come back with stress-related disorders. You know, they're being medicated, they're dealing with addictions then. I know we just, here in the Monadnock region, applied for a grant as a joint initiative and around really trying to look at those co-occurring disorders and how we can all work together in a really supportive system. Would hope that Keene State's involved in that initiative coming up, because that will be a tremendous issue. We're already seeing it. We're, in particular here in the Monadnock region, seeing a lot of stress-related disorders where people are dealing with them by utilizing substances, unfortunately.
Yes, some of us who are old enough to remember, and I'm sure we're not the first ones to remember it, but all of the GIs that came back from the Vietnam War, many of whom were not adequately treated for their, what we would call today, post-traumatic stress disorder. And some individuals are still fighting the Vietnam War who came home decades ago. And are we seeing the beginnings of new difficulties with all the young men and women who are returning from in theater from Iraq or Afghanistan and other far-flung parts of the world, many of whom who have experienced traumatic brain injury as a result of being in explosions of one kind or another, post-traumatic stress disorder from witnessing extraordinary events during combat, and what treatments do we have available, and are we making available to these individuals coming back? Because they will continue to fight the war unless we help them find a way to bring that conflict to a conclusion in their own lives. I believe it was a year or so ago there was an article in Time magazine that suggested that there was about one suicide per day in this country of some military individual who had been in theater. And what are we doing to address those mental health problems of our returning veterans? Post-traumatic stress disorder will continue to interfere with a person's life, and unfortunately, one of the things that works best over the short run, but becomes a problem in the long run, is the use of alcohol and other drugs, especially painkillers, in relieving individuals of that stress.
And I know we've seen that. I know New Hampshire is trying to take an active role in that. Do you see the college maybe having a role in taking on some of that issue that surrounds our military? We have a lot of military families here in the Monadnock region.
Mm-hmm.
Could that be an opportunity, perhaps, for another maybe new innovative partnership?
That's a great idea, Kelly. Boy, that's a blueprint if ever I heard one. You know, we have had some members of the military returning to college, and we've had a few of them come to us by way of the Health Science Department, several of whom have been interested in drug and alcohol problems and who are interested in perhaps entering the field as providers of substance abuse services. But this idea of a partnership of addressing, say, for example, PTSD in returning veterans. And then there is also the partnership with agencies such as Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention. Post-traumatic stress disorder is not limited to war. There are a lot of wars and issues of domestic violence that are taking place every day here within the region, and those problems are just as serious. And is there something that we can do to perhaps privilege a little bit more our focusing on, say, post-traumatic stress disorder as related to addictive disorders, and are there partnerships waiting to happen with agencies that are addressing that in the community?
So it sounds like one of the things maybe we can, and if any of our partners are out there listening, and folks, citizens in the community, we'd love you to weigh in. You can do that by contacting the United Way through either our phone number and asking for me, Kelly Steiner. John, would you mind if they contacted you over at the college if
Not
they
at all.
have some interesting thoughts about perhaps how we can get this moving in the Monadnock region? And because I think there's more that needs to be done. You know, we know that there's policies that are developing at the federal level. We don't have a lot of control over those policies, whether they're related to cannabis or and marijuana, or the well-being of our very own citizens. Even though we may vote and have some control over that, we're not the final decision makers. But we can make decisions here in our local community and really affect policy here, both in our locally and at the state level. We can take an active role in that. And I know there's concern when it comes to the vets right now. That are already veterans or that are family members of vets. And you've got a great partnership and collaborations going on with the community. So this sounds like an opportunity that perhaps citizens we need to seize on. And you know, if we can get the Keene State College to take an active role in that, that could be some great leadership.
Very grateful to help out, and just deep gratitude to you, Kelly, because as a kind of point person and somebody who is really familiar with some of the services that are out there, many of the services, I look forward to having a continuing partnership with you about how we can bring our students into this setting and help them to contribute to community needs and help the citizens of our community.
So John, if someone wanted to reach you over at the college, they wanted to know more about the programs that are available over there, perhaps they're a student and they're really trying to explore where they're headed in their career direction and perhaps for college, how would they contact you?
If students wanted to send me an email, I can give you my email address. It's jfinneran, F-I-N-N-E-R-A-N, the number 1, which is my idea, at keene.edu. And I have an office phone, and the number there is 603-358-2909. And if we can be of help, please feel free to give us a call.
And they could always call the main switchboard over at Keene State College and ask for you.
Yes, and we also have a very active academic and career and advising department at the college, and we would urge and any individuals who are interested in applying to the college and finding out more about the programs that we have to offer there, to please give us a call and schedule a visit and come on over and see the campus and meet a few people for yourself.
Well, I really appreciate that you've joined me today, John, and we've kind of put in a call out to you, community, to take on the challenge perhaps of really looking at these co-occurring disorders that we're seeing, particularly with our veteran population, but we're seeing it with youth. And I don't want to downplay that. We are seeing this across the board with all age groups. People have stress related to work in their lives. We also have young people who, even at the high school and college level, are challenged with their addiction combined with some mental health issues. So we're calling out to you to get involved out there. We know we have a group that's a collaboration that's already begun to form here in the Monadnock region. John's willing to take on Keene State being a little bit more involved in that perhaps, and it's time, citizens. We can't let it go too long, because when we do, it just gets worse. So I want to thank you, John, for joining me tonight. I want to thank you for watching in and staying with us. I encourage you to get involved, and I remind you that it's important to give, volunteer, and advocate. Thank you for living united.